Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Fractured Realities. Oftentimes I sit around and I think I try to help a lot of people who deal with depression and addiction and those type of things. And oftentimes it seems like when we're having a low energy day, like myself today, posting about my soul being tired, and we tend to neglect and not think about the good times in our life. We just reflect on the bad and the terrible things and the tribulations of life in general. But sometimes we need to just sit back and think about the good times. So my message today is to relish what you have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to discuss the best day of my life. So I had to sit there and think, I'm not exactly a spring chicken, so it took me a little while to sit back and reflect on it. But then when I did, I reflected back and I thought about, wow, what an amazing day. And that day for me, the best day of my life was March 4th, 1992. It was my 17th birthday. Okay. This day, I kind of had this little deal with my parents. If I didn't skip school like a little fucking juvenile, they'd let me stay home from school on that day. And it was a Wednesday, but I didn't stay out in school. I woke up about noon. You know, I liked my beauty sleep. Didn't take much, but hey, it was a good thought. And woke up and my mom was in the kitchen. She was baking my cake. Every year, my mother would make me a German chocolate cake with the coconut pecan frosting. That was sort of my favorite. And hey, that was it. Woke up, said hi to my mom. I wanted some tea. At that time, we drank the big gallon jugs. Anybody from Ohio knows about Dairyman's iced tea. It's the best tea in the world, and it's pre-made, sugary greatness. But so I wanted some ghetto tea, so I walked to the store. On my way back from the store, I saw one of my friends from school, um, a kid named Roy B. Hiller. Now, me and Roy weren't like super close. We didn't hang out all the time, but we did each other favors. We got along. He was funny. He always cracked jokes. You know, all around good guy. He seen me, asked me if I wanted a ride. I'm like, no, I just live like 2 blocks away. And he's like, hey man, you wanna smoke a joint? And I'm like, okay. Well, at that time I'm not advocating drug use, but at that time, yes, I absolutely did want to smoke a joint. It was kind of a depressing day. I didn't have a chance to talk to too many people. I slept all day. My car was broke down. I was behind between girlfriends. So yeah, I was kind of lonely. So it was nice, Somebody I knew from school, not real well, but he picked me up. We went around. He twisted one up. Found out it was my birthday, and he gave me another one for later on, which was nice of him, And I always appreciated that. So went home, and I was a little bit high, so I went up to my bedroom and kind of hid from my mom. So I didn't, really want to and still, nobody called. This was before the internet. You couldn't just reach out and get a hold of somebody on instant messenger. You had to like physically call them. And it was my birthday. I didn't really feel the need to call people and say, "Hey, it's my birthday. Entertain me." So it's just not the kind of person I am. But I went up there and went down to use the bathroom a little while later, and my mother was in the bathroom. So the phone rings, and I pick it up, and it's my grandmother. Her name's Dorothy May Fraser. Anyway, Okay, this might seem a little strange and disrespectful, but this is just okay. One time when I was about 9 or 10 years old, I answered the phone when my grandmother called, and I just downed a big old 20-ounce soda, so I belched really loud into the phone. I didn't mean to, but it just kind of came out. And my grandmother was a good sport. She burped back, so that sort of became a thing all those years where when she would call, she'd burp into the phone and I'd burp back. It was a strange family custom. We were oddballs, but so I burped to my grandmother. She wished me a happy birthday, told me she loved me, and then we spoke for a few minutes. I told her I didn't have any plans. I guess I was pretty boring. She wanted to talk to my mom, so I handed my mom the phone. Well, when my mom was on the phone, she got a beep. If any of you are familiar with the old style of call waiting, they had beeps in between the calls. So she took the call and handed me the phone. I spoke on the phone. It was my cousin Gary. Now, me and Gary were very, very close. Gary was about 3 months older than I am. His birthday was December 29th, and mine was March 4th. So we're about 3 months apart. We took pictures together. We were closer, actually, probably than I was with my other siblings. Um, because they were, quite a bit older. Me and Gary were, right there at the same age. So he calls me and asks me what's going on. We're talking. Now, in the background, his mom, whose name was Barb Finnerty. I'm not sure if her name was Finnerty at the time because she later on married a guy named Mike Finnerty, but I'm pretty sure it was by then. So she yelled in the background, "Happy birthday, JJ." And I'm like, oh, tell her I said thank you. Tell her I said I love you and hi. So I talked to Gary for a little while. Then there was a knock on the door. And I go there, and there's my friend Jeff. So me and Jeff were kind of the odd couple. I had hair same length all the way around, blonde down to my waist. Jeff, on the other hand, was about 5'4". He had kind of what people call now a Jufro, just real thick, curly, wavy hair, kind of wild. And he was kind of a crazy wild man. He was very much into rap music, which I wasn't, not at the time. But he's like, "Hey, it's your birthday, motherfucker. Let's go ride around." So I'm like, "Hey, I had a decent buzz on, so yeah, I went and drove around, and he had an old Camaro, so he actually had a nice car. So we're driving around in the neighborhood, looking at girls, blasting Two Live Crew and Too Short and NWA and all the other stuff from back then. Ice T, he listened to all that type of stuff, which I didn't really get into at the time. But now that I look back, it's way better than today's modern rap. But anyway, so he drove around. He told me he wanted to go see his girlfriend, so he dropped me off at the house, and I went back in. Well, a little while later, my friend TJ showed up. Now TJ was very, very odd. TJ was actually born on the day that Jim Morrison died, and he looked like Jim Morrison, acted like Jim Morrison. I mean, dude walked around barefoot, um, never wore shoes. He actually came from a very well-off family too. He never wore shoes. He had several apartments. He even had a house given to him. He chose to sleep outside. But yeah, TJ was a good guy. I mean, he was a friend. He showed up and said, "Hey, let's go drive around." So we're just driving around, and his car was just great. I mean, he had was it a 1979 Delta 88, but he had ripped the seats out and he took house like recliners and somehow got those bolted down to the floor. So it was like cool. We had this big rusty smoking multicolored smoke coming out of the exhaust, and we're in these recliners that would kind of tilt every time we turned a corner, and we're just driving around, listening to Led Zeppelin, and the Doors, and and I had that other joint, so I smoked that with them, and we drove around at the time. I don't remember exactly what we did, but we would just take long rides. I mean, at that time, you could put $5 in your gas tank and drive for 2 hours. So we did that. Me and TJ hung out. Then TJ came back, and TJ said he had to go somewhere. I think he had a job interview or something, or he had to go do something to make some money. And TJ was like 24 years old at the time, so he was, had to support himself, unlike me. Actually, I had a job at the time, but I was off that day. Anyway, so at the time I was taking Kempo classes. So I decided to, I'm going to, it was like 6:30 or so in the afternoon. I decided to go to Kempo class because it was an open night, which meant that we could just go in there and practice our techniques, work out a little bit. My sensei was there, and he just kept the school open. And this was probably the only bad aspect of the day. So I go in there and I'm working, doing my strikes and practicing my forms, doing my strikes on the bag, and he comes in and he takes one look at me and just shakes his head. He says, "No." He says, "I don't care what you do outside of the dojo, but when you come in here, you come in here sober." Because he could see, I mean, my eyes were bloodshot and Chinese. He knew I was high. So he sent me home, and I apologized, and he said it was fine. And he even gave me a t-shirt, because we had our own t-shirts, a cool one with like a dragon and a tiger, and told me happy birthday, and so we always got along. Mike was a good guy. Um, so I go home. When I got home, my dad was there. We'd just gotten off work. My sister Stacy had showed up with her. Let me see. Josh was, I think he was only about 2 then, and yeah, and so she was pregnant with my niece Amanda, and my nephew Josh was there, and we sat there and we had cake. They probably knew that I'd been smoking pot, but they didn't say anything about it. I guess because it was my birthday, but yeah, I was pretty high. But anyway, so I ate this cake and we went and we, hung out. I think I watched about half a movie, and it was like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. I couldn't get out of school on a Thursday as well, 2 days in a row. So I went to bed and I went to sleep. Okay, you're telling yourself, well, what the hell? That was a normal day. Everything about that day, nothing extraordinary happened. So why was that the greatest day of my life? Okay. With the exception of my nephew Josh, who came over that day with my sister, every single one of those people has passed on. Um, the first one was my friend TJ, one that I told you about that looked like Jim Morrison. He was struck down in an automobile accident by a drunk driver in 1994. I have to look back at some of these dates. My friend Martin, or Jeff Hart, his actual name was Martin, but we called him Jeff, the crazy one. He listened to the rap music, who drove around with me listening to girls bumping his stereo. He passed away last year from a massive heart attack. Um, Roy V. Hiller, who picked me up earlier in that day and gave me the weed and told me happy birthday. Roy V. Hiller, 2 years after I got out of high school, was killed in an automobile accident. He was selling a car so he could buy his son a puppy for Christmas, and his friend was actually towing the car with a chain, not real safe, but the chain broke in a garbage truck ran into him. So he died. It was a pretty painful death. Um, my cousin Gary started. He always had health problems, so he started developing brain tumors and such back in like probably his mid 20s. So he passed away at the age of 30 back in 2005. Um, his mother, my aunt Barb Finnerty, she passed away in 2017 from cancer. My grandmother, Dorothy Frazier, she passed away in 2006 from a heart attack. My father died on October 29th of 2010, followed 5 months later by my mom, who died of a heart attack on March 9th, 2011. My sister, I had, some ins and outs with her. I moved here to Montana, didn't speak with her for a while, but last year I added her to Facebook and I did tell her happy birthday, and we spoke briefly on her birthday, which was September 19th, 2008. She unfortunately passed away from sepsis from drug use in 2018. Now, I'm not bringing all this up, and I'm not trying to depress people or make anybody sad by watching this video. But you do need to realize that even those moments that seem inconsequential, that don't seem like they're much, that don't add up to anything, relish them, relish the people that are around you. Instead of dwelling on the sorrow, dwell on the good parts. Life can be boring, life isn't always exciting, but you have to remember there's going to come a time in your life when you're going to look over and see empty chairs at that table. So find a reason to smile. Find a reason to be around the people that you care about. And that, my friends, was the best day of my life. So keep your head up and relish what you have while you still have it. Thank you very much. Good night.